It started innocently enough, or so I told myself the first few times. We live in a modest but quiet neighborhood in the California suburbs, tucked between rolling hills and winding streets that all look eerily similar at night. It's the kind of place where people pretend to wave as they pass by, but secretly judge the height of your grass or how many Amazon packages sit on your porch. Our homeowners association, HOA, might as well be a secret police force. Rules are gospel, and any deviation is met with a pink notice paper that flutters passive-aggressively on your door until you beg forgiveness. I'd been here for 7 years, content in my little bubble of normalcy, until the Karen moved in next door. Now, when I say Karen, I don't mean just any rude neighbor. I mean the Karen. Her real name is Lorraine, but everyone calls her Karen. Behind her back, probably even her own family. She fits every stereotype like a glove. The platinum blonde bob that never frizzes, the oversized sunglasses worn rain or shine, and the permanently puckered lips that look like they've been caught in a wind tunnel. And, of course, the signature weapon complaints. Complaints about noise, complaints about leaves blowing into her yard, complaints about the smell of my barbecue. But her worst offense by far wasn't a matter of etiquette. It was theft. Plain and simple. Power theft. It started about a year after she moved in. I'd noticed a slight uptick in my electric bill. Not a big one at first, but I'm the kind of guy who notices when things don't line up. I work in IT systems engineer, so numbers are my thing. Spikes like that mean something. At first, I chalked it up to my wife's new espresso machine or the extra hours I'd been putting into my workshop out back. But by the third month, something didn't add up. My garage breaker would trip at odd hours of the night. That's when I started watching. I installed a few hidden cameras. Nothing serious, just those little Wi-Fi-enabled things that you can mount discreetly inside an outdoor vent or fake birdhouse. I wanted to monitor the side of my house where the external outlet was, used mainly for my tools and occasionally when we hosted people in the yard. It was positioned just low enough to be hidden from street view, and that's where the breach was happening. One morning, reviewing the footage, I saw it. 2:13 a.m., a shadow slipped through the gate. I leaned in close. Karen, unmistakable. Pajama pants with flip-flops and that stupid monogrammed hoodie LK in gold cursive. She walked straight to my outlet, coiled up a thick black charging cable, and plugged it into her shiny white Tesla parked along the curb. I was stunned. Not just by the boldness, but by the repetition. As I kept digging through the recordings, I found it had been going on for weeks, possibly months. Always the same pattern. Late-night plug-ins, never less than 2 hours, sometimes up to 5. She'd coil the cable tightly, almost reverently, like she was folding a flag, and sneak away as if nothing happened. My first instinct wasn't anger. It was disbelief. Who does that? I mean, it's one thing to be annoying. It's another thing to steal power in a neighborhood with 24/7 surveillance and an HOA. That'll fine you for having your trash bins visible past 9 a.m. the next day. So I decided to confront her calmly. I caught her outside trimming her already perfect hydrangeas one Saturday morning. I walked over, coffee mug in hand, tried to keep it civil. "Hey, Lorraine, mind if I ask you something?" She smiled with all the warmth of a DMV clerk and didn't stop snipping. "Sure, what's up?" "I think there's been some kind of mix-up. My outside power outlet, someone's been using it at night." "I've got footage." "It's your charging." "Cable, I think." She paused, blinked behind her sunglasses. "Oh? That? Yeah, I figured it was okay. I mean, it's just a little electricity." "A little electricity?" "That outlet's rated at 240 volts. The kind of juice that powers table saws and entire vac systems. Her Tesla wasn't sipping on my grid. It was guzzling it like a frat boy at a kegger." I tried to stay calm. "It's not okay, Lorraine. That's theft. My breaker's been tripping. I've had to reset my circuits multiple times." She scoffed, not even pretending to apologize. "You tech guys always exaggerate. It's just for a few hours here and there. Besides, the HOA says we're supposed to be eco-conscious. I'm driving electric. That's saving the planet." I wanted to scream. "With my electricity?" She waved me off like I was some pesky telemarketer and returned to her pruning. Relax, it's just temporary. We're getting solar installed next month. You won't even notice by then. But I did notice, every night. My power usage kept creeping up. And worst of all, she'd started doing it earlier in the evening, no longer waiting until everyone was asleep. She'd plug in casually while watering her lawn, sometimes chatting on her Bluetooth like it was her God-given right. So I reported her to the HOA, sent them footage. They promised to look into it. But weeks passed and nothing happened. Then I got a notice I was being fined for unauthorized outdoor equipment usage. Karen had flipped the script, claiming my tools were a safety hazard. Of course, took her side. She was friends with Linda, the OA treasurer, who also drove a Tesla. That's when I snapped. I could have taken her to small claims court. Filed a police report, but no. That's not how this game would be played. If she wanted to mess with power, then I'd give her a taste of it. I spent 2 weekends working on it. Wired a new external box to look exactly like the old outlet, same cover, same placement, but the guts? Oh, that was art. I re-redded it through a dummy circuit one that I custom built to deliver a delayed capacitive overload. Enough to fry a charger's internals if left connected long enough. Not dangerous to life, mind you, I'm not a monster. But to a Tesla's charger? Instant meltdown. I even installed a bypass capacitor with a delayed voltage dump. 30 minutes after plug-in boom fizzled adapter, the bait was set. It took 3 days. Monday night, 12:47 a.m., she crept up like usual. Plugged in, walked away. 31 minutes later, the camera caught it. A loud pop, a flash of sparks, and the unmistakable smell of burnt circuitry rising in the air. Karen came running out in her slippers, panic written all over her face. She tugged the cable, yelped when she touched the scorched adapter. I sat in my living room, sipping scotch, watching it all unfold on my monitor. Justice, sweet, electrically conducted justice. She didn't try again after that. The next morning, her Tesla was towed to the service center. I overheard her shouting on the phone, arguing about warranty coverage. Something about unexpected surge damage and external source fault. Tesla didn't cover it. The charger was toast. Repairs? $2,100. Installation of a new home wall unit? Another $1,000. My outlet? Still humming along just fine. I even swapped back to the original box the next day like nothing had happened. Of course, she came to confront me. You did this. She hissed, storming over while I was out mowing the lawn. I cut the engine and removed my ear protection. Did what? Don't play dumb. You rigged that outlet? I shrugged. It's on my property. No one's allowed to use it without permission. She opened her mouth, then closed it. She had no leg to stand on. The next week, I got a letter from the HOA. Her complaint against me was dismissed due to lack of evidence. My fines were revoked. Hers, however, were just beginning. Tampering with a neighbor's utilities without consent, grounds for expulsion under the updated bylaws. I'd made sure of that by submitting a policy proposal. 6 weeks earlier, anonymously, of course, Loren's solar panels never got installed. The AOA put a freeze on her application pending investigation. She ended up parking her Tesla at a friend's house 2 blocks over for charging. Sometimes she'd walk the distance in the dead heat of summer, cursing the whole way. I watched her from my porch, lemonade in hand, savoring every step. But what Karen didn't know, what no one knew, was that I wasn't done yet. She still owed me. And I had plans. The aftermath of her charred Tesla charger was deliciously quiet. For nearly a month, Karen seemed to disappear into the background like a bad memory. Her late-night prowling ceased, her once frequent tirades at the HOA meetings were absent, and for the first time since she moved in, my lawn was allowed to grow 3 days past its scheduled trim without her filing a complaint. The silence was golden. But I knew her kind. The Karens of the world don't accept defeat. They regroup. They smirk in silence and plot their next move. And sure enough, her return wasn't humble, it was operatic. It began with the security camera blind spots. I maintain a modest but strategic perimeter of cameras by the driveway. One near the tool shed, another just above the garage facing the side yard. But I hadn't anticipated that someone would start triggering motion alerts without being caught on footage. My phone would ping in the early morning hours, 3:12 am, 4:46 am, always odd timings, always brief, the recordings. Nothing but faint rustling or the faint flicker of motion-activated lighting. It didn't make sense until the day I found my back gate's lock dismantled. Lying in the grass like a pickled carcass, she was probing. Testing my responses. The fried charger had embarrassed her, probably cost her hundreds more than she'd cared to admit. And Karen, sorry, Lorraine wasn't used to losing. I started keeping a log, every noise, every faint disturbance. My dog, a gentle Labrador named Dexter, started barking at nothing more than shadows on certain nights. I knew it wasn't over, and then she escalated. I came home from work one Friday to find a citation from the city posted to my garage door. An authorized structure under investigation, possible zoning violation, my workshop. The tiny addition I built 3 years ago with a permit and HOA approval, now mysteriously flagged. I made a few calls, and sure enough, someone had filed an anonymous complaint about improper electrical wiring and unsafe modification of utilities. There was only one person petty enough with motive and grudge. I could practically hear her acrylic nails clacking the report out. It cost me 3 full weekends, 2 inspections, and 1 visit from a city code enforcer to get the matter cleared. My permits were all valid, my wiring spotless. Still, the inconvenience wasn't the point, it was the provocation. Karen wanted me rattled. She thought she could gaslight me into overstepping, that I'd lash out and give her ammo. But idea and single quote stud instead. I waited, and while I waited, I learned more than I ever wanted to about my neighbor. Her social media was a goldmine. Lorraine wasn't just a Karen, she was a serial complainer with a verified Yelp profile and a private Facebook group for community standards advocates. I watched as she aired grievances like laundry. One post caught my eye, still waiting for the solar install. Got ghosted by another contractor. Thinking of applying for a state rebate extension, so sick of charging on borrowed time. Borrowed time, that phrase lit a spark. She was still reliant on external charging. Her Tesla wasn't just a car, it was a status symbol. The white Model Y with custom rims, tinted windows, and the vanity plate that read Eco Queen. Without a home charging unit, her routine was disrupted. She couldn't drive to her favorite yoga studio without planning a pit stop. And that, my friend, was where I found my leverage. I did something petty, insidious, but perfectly legal. There's an app called PlugShare. It's a network of publicly listed EV chargers, including residential ones that people voluntarily share for a small fee or sometimes for free. I created a fake profile, Jared's EV Haven, listed my address, but used her phone number. I set it up so that the listing only appeared during certain hours, mostly late night and early morning. I made sure the details matched her house down to the color of the siding and the plants in the yard. Courtesy of old Google Street View images. And then I waited. It took about a week. One night around 1 a.m. I heard tires screeching, voices yelling. I peeked through my blinds and saw a black Nissan Leaf parked outside her home, and a college-aged guy arguing with her on the front lawn. Your ad says I could charge here, dude. I came all the way from Glendale. Lorraine was livid. Red-faced, robe flapping in the wind, waving her arms like she was conducting an orchestra of fury. The next night, it happened again. This time a couple in a BMW i3 showed up and rang her doorbell twice before she called the cops. The cops, of course, couldn't do much. The app listing was vague. No proof of intent. No damages, but by the 4th night, after someone actually plugged into the outdoor outlet on her porch, she lost it. She marched into the HOA office the next morning, demanding that all electric vehicle ads be banned from community listings. She accused her neighbors of cyberstalking. She threatened to sue the city. I was in the meeting, sitting 2 chairs behind her, pretending to scroll through my phone. When the board asked her for proof, she pointed at me. He did this. I know. He did. He's been harassing me ever since that charging thing happened. Everyone turned to me. I looked up, blinked like I'd just woken up from a nap. Sorry, what? You faked the listings, I shrugged. Listings? The HOA president leaned forward. Lorraine, do you have any concrete evidence that your neighbor created these false listings? She fumbled. Well, he's a tech guy. He does. Stuff like this? The president turned to me. Mr. Shaw? I haven't the slightest clue what she's talking about. But I'd be happy to help her figure out how her information ended up online. Sounds like a cybersecurity issue. Her lips tightened. Her hands curled into fists. That night, my cameras caught her throwing what looked like a gallon of expired milk at my driveway. Dexter barked his head off. The next morning, I printed the footage and submitted it to the HOA as a concern for escalating behavior. By now, our Cold War had turned hot. She avoided eye contact, but she couldn't help herself. Every time I walked outside, she'd find something to complain about, muttering under her breath, "This neighborhood used to be civilized," or, "You think you're clever." I didn't respond. I didn't need to. I was winning, but the final blow came from an unlikely source, her own Tesla. One afternoon, I noticed a work van parked in her driveway. Tesla service. 2 men in Palos were inspecting the car. They had laptops, tools, and long faces. I overheard snippets. Diagnostics showing surge history. Potentially modified outlet. System mismatch with wall adapter. Firmware. I knew what was happening. The earlier damage I caused? It went deeper than the charger. Her car's onboard charging system had likely logged the anomaly. Tesla vehicles keep detailed event logs, voltage fluctuations, temperature, spikes, circuit behavior. Whatever it recorded back when I fried her stolen juice session, it was now coming back to bite her. That kind of damage isn't always apparent immediately, but when it shows up, it voids warranties. By the time they left, Corinne's face looked pale. She wasn't yelling. She wasn't even on the phone. Just sitting on her porch, staring at the car like it had betrayed her. Later that week, her Tesla disappeared, towed again. Rumor had it she was considering selling it altogether and moving out. Something about this neighborhood being toxic to innovation. I wish I could say I felt bad. That maybe, somewhere deep down, I regretted the path this all took. But the truth is, people like her thrive when others roll over. They take kindness as weakness. She stole from me, then tried to ruin me when I stopped her. All I did was teach her that every current has its consequence. The final straw came when I received a letter certified mail. It was from Lorraine. Dear Mr. Shaw. It began, typed, with an overly formal font that screamed passive aggression. Due to recent events, I've decided to sell my home and relocate to an area better suited to my lifestyle. I trust that, moving forward, you will remember the importance of neighborly boundaries. Please refrain from contacting me or interfering in my affairs. Consider this a cease and desist regarding further surveillance, recordings, or public humiliation. I framed it. Hung it in my workshop right above my breaker panel. A week later, the for sale sign went up. 2 weeks after that, she was gone, and I finally was free.